record button. So, oh, all right, got it. All right, so welcome everybody to our third and final session for our Reimagining Rural. We are super excited to be here, and we're super excited to have everybody on board with us this evening. My name is Jennifer Anderson, and I'm one of the hosts for tonight's program. I am a MSU Extension Community Vitality Associate Specialist, and you can't tell this, but I'm coming live, like I just said a little bit ago, I'm coming live from our Forsyth session. And Tara Mastel, who is our MSU Extension Community Vitality Associate Specialist and Program Director, is also co-hosting tonight, and she is back home at Red Lodge. She was planning to be at Big Timber this evening, and the weather kind of took over. So we're excited to be here with you all tonight. We're super excited for the program that we have this evening. We're just tickled to death to be able to have our speaker with us this evening. Before we jump into that, a few things we want to talk about is we want to again make sure we talk a little bit about our sponsors. Montana Department of Commerce, who has given us funding to carry out this year's series. This is our fourth year of doing Reimagining Rural. And then always a shout out to Montana Community Foundation. They have been our partners. They are friends, our co-producers, so to speak, on this since we started this, and we could not do it without Montana Community Foundation. So we are extremely thankful to have them on board with us. So let's see if I can click down to my next slide. I'm going to move some stuff here. Okay, so just again, want to hit home a few things that Reimagining Rural is a place for Montana's small towns to gather, connect, share, and learn how to build vibrant, sustainable futures for our communities. Here, when we put Reimagining Rural together, and we came up with some ideology, and we just want to share that with everybody. We aim to inspire rural people to reimagine their community, to embrace different perspectives, individuals, and ideas, connect through shared hopes, dreams, and experiences, and lastly, to create a positive change because your community is worth it. And again, I blew this up a little bit, so the slide doesn't look very good. However, I think some of y'all could not see it very well last year. So this is the community of Reimagining Rural across the state of Montana. The communities that are blue dots are our previous past participants, and the red stars are our current participants this year. So we have 11 communities all across the state, from Ekalaka to Lima, all the way up to Cut Bank. Okay, so a little bit about our logistics again tonight. So if you're having some tech issues, and if you have any problems, make sure that you can contact or text Skylar Gurman. She is our program manager, and she's our tech guru, so she can help you out. On our agenda. So for folks who really like to know what we're going to be doing tonight, y'all should have agendas that Tara has sent out and your local facilitators have shared. We're doing our introductions. I'm not sure we'll have time to recap from our previous session. We have featured speakers who also is going to share her own community success story. So we're super excited about that. And then we will be talking a little bit from Montana Community Foundation about the grants and some other exciting news. And then we'll be wrapping up this year's Reimagining Rural series. Okay, so with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Tara, and she has the pleasure of introducing our speakers this evening, and I'm going to quit sharing my screen if I figure out where my...
Yes, I get to introduce our speaker tonight. So I don't know how I first heard about Rebecca Undem, but somehow she came to me through the algorithm. And I think probably because there's really not very many people out there that are speaking and talking positively about rural places. And she's definitely one of them. So she talks about the amazing things that she has accomplished in her town of 1800 in Oaks, North Dakota, which is it sounds like about 100 miles from Fargo, south of the interstate. She is a national speaker. She moved home maybe 10 years ago to help her her husband helps ranch on her family ranch that she grew up on. The thing that I love the most is she renovated an old building in her downtown for a thing that she wanted to have in her town. It was very much out of the box idea. And so that combined with her speaking skills, and she does this amazing podcast, which you'll see me share from time to time on our Facebook group. But Rebecca Undem is just an amazing advocate for small towns. And we're really excited to have her talk tonight about this topic, because we think that a lot of you all are this kind of a person, a doer, a dreamer, a spark plug in your small town. And sometimes it's hard in your small town. So Rebecca's going to offer some of her sage advice experience with that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca.
All right. Well, first of all, just on the tech side, thank you, first of all. But can you see my screen? Do you just see a screen? Do you have anything weird going on?
Yeah, there's a couple of boxes across the bottom and to the on one side. Yeah.
Give me 1 second and see if I can get those. That's like a new thing. So maybe your really smart tech person can be like, here's what you have to do, Rebecca, because I'm not sure how to fix that. Give me just a second. I'm going to stop.
You want to, yeah, I was going to say, try resharing.
So I actually had found somewhere that this is a setting. But I tried to fix it and it didn't matter. So let's see what happens here. The only thing I'm going to be able to do is get rid of that. Possibly.
Are you seeing the black boxes on your end as well?
Yes, but I mean, they're controls for me. So, okay, give me a second. I can hide the big one on the bottom. Do you just see basically a small one on the upper right?
We see a small one in the upper right, a big box in the bottom right, and a rectangle.
Like, and it's over top of the slides.
There, yes. That's the best right there.
Okay, yeah. I think
whatever you did.
I have to like research this because I looked it up and I changed the setting. Okay, so I apologize, everybody. I have no idea why this is happening.
You're good.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully, we'll be all right here. So, yeah. And by the way, I have a full 50. Is that right? Can you tell me on time? Am I right till 8? Just so I time myself and I don't get over, or am I not? It's 8 my time. Sorry.
We have Q&A at planned at 6:50.
Okay, so yeah, I've got 40 minutes. Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, when we were talking about, you know, what I could share, you said sage wisdom. I'm not sure I'm going to delve and like dole any of that out to you folks, but I think I'm one of these people. I'm a person that likes to get after stuff. I dream really big. And in my podcast, I had this amazing guest. We can talk about him later. I hope you go and check it out. His name is Ben Muldrow. But he talked about spark plugs and this idea that it always just takes a spark, a person. And I think of that as a person, right? A spark, a doer, a dreamer. So I put this together. It's a set of love notes. There are 10 different specific love notes to every single one of you, because clearly you must resonate with the idea of this, or you wouldn't have signed up for this. You wouldn't have braved the Montana weather tonight. We're getting ours in North Dakota tonight. So I hope that this, more than anything, I don't want to stand here and tell you how to do things. I want to share with you what I've learned. I want to share with you some things that I continue to, it just continues, these things continue to be true as I work in my community, as I work with other communities. The next thing to share, so I like to just be like, hey, I'm Rebecca. This is who I am. Like in picture form, it's actually on the wall in my office here. This idea that I'm on the rise and I'm taking everybody with me. I have always been a bit hardwired for growth and improvement, getting better, I guess. And that means a lot of things to a lot of different people in my role. I do economic development here in my small town. My town, I'm in Oaks, North Dakota, as Tara said, it's like the southeast corner of the state. We're about 110 miles from Fargo, a town of 1,800 people. What I've come to find is as inspirational as this little, I mean, I found this in a handmade store, immediately grabbed it and framed it and put it in my office. But the truth is, not everybody is willing. And so this is one of the things that I'm going to share a bit of my story, what we did in our small town, what I've learned from that process. But this was one of the first things that I learned. And I learned it honestly the hard way, which aren't those always the best lessons, that really not everybody wants growth. Not everybody wants to get better. And the only way that I could navigate that, being who I am, was to figure out a way to love them where they are, and understand that my job is to match the efforts of the people around me. You know, so if people want my help, they have to at least give as much as I'm going to give them. Because I found myself, and again, we'll talk about like my idea and where this all landed, but work with the willing and love the rest can be a really good frame just to remember as you're trying to make stuff happen in your respective small towns. So over time, I developed somewhat of a process. I know Deb is on the call. She and Becky have the idea friendly method. I don't have a cool name for this yet, but really it's just looking at the fact that your idea plus the right people plus inspired action will actually let every single person that's listening to this tonight create their own unique impact. I get really juiced thinking about how to help people steward their gifts forward. I love I can close my eyes and I love the visual of looking out at a community and just seeing lights come on. And that's people turning on to the things that they love, the things that they care about, finding a way to give the best of themselves in their communities. And I think that's honestly what most of us want, right? We want to make an impact in our places, the places we love, the places we call home. And so I'm going to walk you through the pieces that fit into this and how it looked for me when I did my thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your idea. And oftentimes I just lead with this question: what do you really want to see in your community? This is one of those questions that I think is really interesting. I think when I've given this presentation, and it depends, I almost never get it with groups like yours. When I talk about the thing that I'm going to share that we did, this building that we restored, I often get people that ask me questions like, well, what was your market analysis? You know, what did you do focus groups? Like they asked me all these questions about how I decided that this was what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I wanted it. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. But ultimately, if you want to see it in your community, you might have a role in creating it. So when I started, so as Tara said, I've actually been back now I'm from this community. I was born and raised here. I'm now the fifth generation of my family to farm our land. And by me, it's really my spouse, but it's my family's land. I grew up here. When I left, I never thought I'd come back to my small town, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't see a way forward for myself. I graduated long enough ago that didn't even have a cell phone in my hand. And so the fact that I'm connecting with 11 communities all across the state of Montana, like this way of working didn't exist when I graduated. So for me, I had come back, and when we had 3 kids kind of right out of the gate, and we're just kind of acclimating to that whole life, which if any of you have children, just like keeping my head above water, it was mid 2019 when I really started to think about this. So this was the stuff that I wanted to see. I had already been working, I had been in organizational development as the background that I have. I was a speaker. I had already written my book. And my youngest child was 4. So she had gotten old enough where that ever-present physical need, let's say, got a little simpler. And so I wanted to see co-working. I wanted a space that felt cool to like work in, an office in. I wanted a place that I was excited to invite people to visit. I absolutely wanted control. That's a control freak thing. Not always the best personality trait that I have. But I was really frustrated by, I am used to speaking in small towns everywhere. And sometimes you're in like a back dingy room of a VFW, right? And I would have to bring in my own projector and bring in my own speakers. And I was used to that, and that's fine. But I felt like my community could have a space that was the kind of space that I'd love to speak in, where the tech was great, right? Like just plug and play. So I started to have this feeling of like, what kind of a thing I wanted to see in Oaks. And then there was this building. So this building, that's my hand holding a picture. So the picture in the foreground is a Ben Franklin. I wish so badly that I could like see your faces and ask who remembers the Ben Franklin, because I swear it's like you either remember it and it was fond memories, or you have no idea what I'm talking about. That building, so then in the background is the building as it stood in 2019. So this building literally spoke to me. When Brinley turned about, like I said, about 4, it was mid 2019. This building had been mostly vacant for the past few years. It's a huge storefront. And the reason this building mattered so much to me is because of these two. So these are my maternal grandparents. They're my mom's parents. That's Dorothy and Howard Seafelt, and they owned that building and ran the Ben Franklin store from it when I was a little girl. And in fact, like when we got the building, and I'll get into that in just a second, but we actually called the building Dorothy Jane after my grandma, just because she needed so much love and we needed to call her something. So every time me and my kids would come in, like during the renovation, we would talk to her and stuff. These two humans were, they're massively inspirational to me. It's weird. I had my dad's parents as the farming family, and then I had these two doing the Main Street business thing. And while we technically came back to be farmers, I am not a farmer. I'm actually not all that welcome on the farm, if we're being honest. And so it was really interesting. I grew up watching my grandma, and of course, like with most things, when I was young, I didn't get the lessons that I was learning, but I really was I was, a lot of what I know about women was formulated from watching my grandma Dorothy. They own this business together. She was not his secretary. She was his business partner. And I watched them care for this building, and I watched them engage in our community. And so this building was, honestly, it's way bigger than what I needed for what I wanted to see, but there was no way I wanted it to be anywhere else but this building. So you all can recall, so it's 2019, mid 2019, I actually formed the nonprofit called Growing Small Towns. The mission was to kind of focus on 3 main areas of development for the community, all focused on people, which is the start and scale of small businesses, more opportunities to interact or engage with art and culture, and then the third pillar being just all about personal development, helping people get skills that help them get better, period. Started that in 2019. This building was vacant, building was empty. And so I started putting some amazing fundraising plans together, and they were slated for March and April of 2020. As we all recall, we all remember what happened. The brakes slammed on my big dream pretty quickly. But I'm going to tell you just in a second here about how we got through that without getting too in the weeds about it. We'll save that for Q&A. But we ended up purchasing the building at the end of 2020. And this is what she looked like when we bought her. Now, she doesn't look that bad, but if you look at that picture on the upper right, you can definitely see all the water damage on the wall. It was the last thing that it had been was a thrift store and consignment shop. So all the stuff that's in there, which it looks kind of empty, but it's an 8,000 square foot building. All of that stuff was mine to deal with. So we spent a lot of time figuring this out. I'm going to show you some of the pictures of the renovation, but this was, again, because you're rural, you're small town people. I feel like you probably already have some sort of affinity for my grandparents. We purchased this building on October 29th, 2020. On the way back from the closing, I was looking at the abstract. That right there, you can see is the warranty deed to my grandparents, Howard and Dorothy Seafelt, on October 29th, 1980. So unbeknownst to me, I actually purchased this building from my grandparents 40 years later to the day. If that doesn't give you the goosebumps, we can't be friends. That's what I'm going to say about that. So absolutely I felt their presence. I still do all the time. But we had a heck of a journey ahead of us. Here's just some of the pictures. This is where you can really see the state of this building. Like, she was in bad shape. Really hadn't had any major improvements done to her since my grandparents bought her and remodeled her. So I'm going to get into a little bit of what we did, but like, no kidding. This was a very, very expensive project. I never ever lie about that. Lots of tears, cried more than I've ever cried in my life. Lots of sleepless nights. My spouse and I fought a lot. I cried on the floor. My kids would hug me because they could tell I was so stressed out. This was a really challenging thing. But I learned a lot from it, and that's what I hope to share with you. But here is what Dorothy Jane looks like today. So this is the building I'm actually standing in. I'm in my office at 510 Main. And we opened in July of 2021. So it took us about 10 months, I guess, to renovate her and get her off the ground. Since then, we welcomed over 2,000 people to our community from 11 different states. And that's just physically into our building. In just a couple of short years, we've doubled the population of Oaks and guests. So your dream, like what you want for your town, might look nothing like this. And that's absolutely okay. But I promise you, I'm not any more special than you are. There are things that I'm going to share with you today that I learned about what it takes to accomplish it doesn't even have to be on this scale. It could be something completely different. But that's what I hope you take away, is a little bit of inspiration about the fact that small towns deserve nice things. And it's okay to shoot for big, big dreams. So here's my first love note for you. To you, the doers, the dreamers, the schemers, the spark plugs. It's okay to pursue what you want for your small town. If you want it, the community wants it because you're a part of the community. You won't be able to do it alone. That's absolutely true. But it's okay if the idea is driven by a desire of yours. So then if you think, well, what's your idea? Here's a few things and prompts. And of course, you'll have these slides so you can ask yourself some of these questions. But some of the things that you can think about is like, what would make me love this place more? Is there something that you had or maybe experienced in a different place that you're like, gosh, if only my town had this? How do you want to get better? How do you want to grow? Who do you want to do life with? What do you want to see happen? What's missing that you can create? These are just some prompts to help you start thinking about what would be so great to have in your community. It's one of these things that I don't believe any idea is too big. And that leads me to love note number 2. It's really that every new idea seems totally crazy until it works. We'll get into it. I'll tell you about some of the things that were said to me. You can about imagine. But if you want it, first of all, it's worth pursuing. And don't let the idea that it's out there or far-fetched actually slow you down at this point. Love note number 3 is that I really think in communities, no matter the size, we need to really be more willing to challenge the statement, well, that sounds expensive. Because this building, she's right in the heart of Main Street. Our Main Street, we've got a really vibrant Main Street. If we hadn't invested in her the way that we did, I'm not sure what she would look like today. I'm not sure she'd even be fully standing. Like, her roof was leaking so bad that it's really questionable, right? So that sounds expensive. There's also a major cost to doing nothing. And I just don't think we challenge ourselves with that enough. Okay, so back to the your idea plus the right people. So we talked about your idea. Now let's talk about the right people. Sounds kind of pretentious, but I think you'll know what I'm talking about once we get into it. Okay, so this is how we're going to focus on it. This is another little, okay, I'm an org development consultant. So legitimately, I use this model with every single client that I talk to. There's kind of 2 ways you can use this model. You can look at it when you're the one that's both in charge of getting the results and you're the one that'll create the results, okay? Then there's how to use this model when we're trying to get other people to do stuff, okay? It's the same process. We experience something. The experience is kind of the external thing, okay? It happens to us. It's the thing we're not in control of. Then we immediately feel things, think things, believe things about that thing that's happening to us. That causes us to take action. Our actions drive our results. And then the results that we get then become a memory. And then we have this crazy way of going back and just kind of self-selecting based on what we experienced. Okay. This happens to every single person. Okay. So there's nothing special about this, but I want to explain why it's so important to surround yourself with the right people. Okay, so using that model, your idea would go smack in the middle there, like the thing that you want, that's your results. Okay, so if your idea is in the middle and the results, the next thing you would do is say, okay, well, what do we need to do to make that happen? This is why if all we do is focus on doing the right thing, we miss the biggest psychological driver of humans. And it's what thoughts, feelings, and beliefs would lead us to take those actions. This is the part we never spend enough time thinking about. And this is why it's so important. If you're trying to get people to do something different, you actually have to let them experience something different. We need to think about how do we create the kinds of experiences that generate the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs we want people to think and feel so that they'll do what we want them to do. You can use this model when you think about how do we get more visitors to our town? How do we get people to move to our town? We have to think about the psychological component of it. Okay, so going back to this, so there again, if you're trying to get other people to do something, we've got to think about what we're letting them experience. But the same holds true if you're the one doing the work. So again, looking at this model, I have this big thing I want to do. I kind of know what I have to do action-wise. There's a whole series of stuff I have to do. But how I have to feel, the way I have to think, feel, and believe, I have to believe that it's possible, that I'm supported, that I'm capable. I have to believe those things. And often what happens, especially in small towns, is the very first thing that we experience when we get, quote unquote, a crazy new idea is the experience that we first have is with people. And oftentimes the people are these people. So I love this because I know I've heard Deb Brown say cave people, the Citizens Against Virtually Everything kind of people. I use the acronym WBC and I call them the Wet Blanket Committee. Okay. Like I'm being jovial and light about this, but we all know who these people are. That the second they see a spark or even a notion of something new, it's like they walk around with like a backpack stuffed full of wet blankets and they're just waiting to pull them out and smother your idea. I don't know why, but it's like it's their job. Okay. So I want to talk to you about how to avoid, because you can't avoid these people. Now, there's something about timing. We can make sure they're not the first people we go to when we're talking about our idea or sharing our idea. But at this point in my process, I was telling everybody the story because I needed support. We needed financial support to take on some of this project. And so really quickly, I realized I was going to need to really bolster my support network. So when it comes to the WBC, here's a few love notes related to them. The first love note is this: simply don't take criticism from someone you'd never ask for advice. It's crazy how wired we are as humans to hold on to the negative feedback. All of us do that. It's super unproductive. I'm literally just here to remind you that if the person standing in front of you isn't somebody you aspire to be like, and you wouldn't ask them for their advice on something, you can absolutely file 13, their criticism as well. The second love note related to people is let them. I'm not going to lie, this is straight out of therapy. I always share my therapist's wisdom. When she said this to me, I slow blinked at her over Zoom because I do therapy over Zoom because I'm rural and that's what we do. And basically this just means we're not responsible for what other people do with anything we give to them or say to them. I was in good faith sharing this big dream, this big hope. And early on, I realized it's kind of a work with the willing and love the rest thing too, that not everybody was going to love it. And not only that, some people were really going to hate it. And in fact, some people might congregate at the barber shop across the street and just talk smack about me every day while I was renovating. And the let them simply means that's your job. It's just to let them do what they're going to do. We're not in control of what other people decide to do with our ideas. And then love note number 6, this is also, again, it's a Janet wisdom. My therapist's name is Janet. It's tricky down here. Like doing anything new, different, especially if it's out of the mainstream in a small community, you're gonna face this kind of criticism. And I think more than anything, I just want to help people normalize that a little bit, because otherwise it can really knock you. It can knock you back, and it can make you think you're not capable. You're not smart enough. You're not the right person. You're not going to figure it out. The town doesn't need it. All of those things. And then you'll never take the actions needed to make your thing happen. People have an enormous effect on us, especially early on. So let's talk about who we do need. Who are the right people? There are 5 buckets of people that I think really accompany us when we're taking anything of scale on. And I'm talking, this could be anything. It doesn't have to be scale like I'm talking about, right? It's literally anything you want to do. So we've got champions, co-strivers, accountants, mentors, and challengers. I'm going to go through these really fast because they're really easy to understand. I think it's just really remembering that we actually need this kind of support because we need more help than we can do all by ourselves. So the first is champions. These people are legit. They are your cheerleaders. They are going to see you and love you regardless of what you achieve. So they're not just here for your idea. They're here for you. They're going to cheer you on. Co-strivers are people, their primary role is to commiserate with you. So if you can find somebody, and it could be in your town, it could be, this is where the internet has made these connections so much more possible. That's why, again, like when I said I couldn't imagine moving home, it was because like there was a time, again, like depending on how young some of our people on this Zoom call are tonight, like there was a time when your network was pretty limited to the people you physically did life with. And that's not the case anymore. So also I want to just say, you may not have all of these people right in your backyard, but they exist and they're out there. Okay. So a co-striver would be a person either in your town or somewhere achieving something of a similar level. That's why you get, sometimes we can call them accountability buddies, right? Like if you want to lose weight, you find a buddy, you're co-striving, you're striving for a goal next to each other. And their primary thing is they can say, man, I feel ya. It was hard. This is challenging. And I'm here with you. Okay. Accountants are the ones that hold your toes to the fire. They're the ones that literally say, hey, you said you were going to do this, get it done. I absolutely need these people. I need real accountants too, because I'm terrible with that whole side of my life. But I need people to remind me, to hold me accountable to the things that I said I was going to do. Mentors are the people that have achieved something of a similar level. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but they've already accomplished it. So they are not coming alongside you like a co-striver does, but they're ahead of you on a path. And you can ask them, they can advise you, they can counsel you. Sometimes it feels like what we get from our co-strivers is counsel and wisdom, but since they haven't done what you've set out to do, it's really just commiseration. Where here, people that have achieved something can actually say, here's some things to watch for, here's some things to check out. They can give you resources. And the last thing is challengers. We all need people who actually love us. This is different from the wet blanket committee, by the way, because the wet blanket committee doesn't give a crap. They don't care about you. They don't care about your idea. They don't love you, right? Challengers are the ones that you relegate this role to them. They're the ones that poke holes in your ideas and they challenge your assumptions. We just get too close to our own stuff. So it's hard to be objective about it. And our challengers help us because they remind us of things we can't see. Okay, so those are the 5 types. Here's a few notes on roles. It's really unlikely that your accountant and your champion are the same human, just totally different skill sets. You may not need to find 5 separate people. So some of the skill sets can overlap. Like I have a business best friend. His name is Patrick. I adore him. He commiserates with me and he champions me. So I don't need to go you don't need to necessarily find separate people. You just need to recognize when the gift set or the skill sets don't overlap. The third thing is really allow people's gifts to shine. Don't expect people to perform roles for you that they are not meant to perform. So I'm just going to share, my spouse was like this. I had so many moments where I was like, why aren't you just cheerleading me? I'm working so hard. Can't you see this? He is not a cheerleader. It's just like not in his wheelhouse at all. He's excellent at challenging me. To the point where I'm like, okay, enough. Like, I got it. You've poked the holes. Can we just move on? Right. But it's important not to expect people to show up in a way that they're just not naturally inclined to do. And then there again, coach drivers can't be mentors. We often, it can feel like good wisdom and counsel, but it's not the same as somebody who's already accomplished it. Okay. So this is what I mean by the right people, is actually strategically thinking about who you need to support yourself with, either in the duration or while you're working on your thing. My last love note about people is simply this, that if you aren't willing to step out, and I feel like when I was in a session with Becky and Deb, they were presenting, we were talking about basically planting your flag. I think they still maybe use that language, that it's like saying, this is, and for me, I say, like, this is who I am. This is what I care about. And if you have the courage to step out and say that, your people will find you, but they can't find you if you're unwilling to do that. And it can feel risky in a small town. But I'm telling you, oh my goodness, the people that have come my way, I mean, even Tara, right? Like meeting Tara this way, getting the chance to speak to you all. It's because I planted this specific flag, and I continue to wave it every day because I have not done collecting friends. I love collecting friends. So step out so your people can find you. They're out there, I promise. Okay, so back to this little thing, right? So now your experiences with those right people, and suddenly you feel like it's possible, you're capable, you feel supported and encouraged. And just think of the difference that mindset has when it comes to taking actions. We act, I mean, again, you can really operate from only one place. This is love note number 8. It's either hope or fear. And so that's why that middle level of thinking about, what do I think? What do I feel? What do I believe? We want to buoy your hope. Because when you take actions from a place of hope, it's rare that things won't get better. You may not get exactly what you aimed for, but for me, it's progress, it's growth. Things get better when we operate from a place of hope instead of fear. So the last piece of this little, again, it's like a tiny little formula that I think kind of follows these kinds of things, is inspired action. So again, once we feel supported and encouraged, we're capable, it's possible, like, I'm doing this, it's happening, you're more likely to take the kinds of action that actually make a difference. And because I really do believe in the value of taking small steps, which sounds crazy given what I took on, but it was a series of tiny steps. So here's some inspired actions that you can take related to the thing that you want to see happen in your town. Number 1 is to focus on trying to do what you can do. Like when I started this process, I had never taken on a project of this scale. I didn't know what I was doing at all. And so I focused on what I could do. And one day I was in the basement. The basement was plump full of stuff. We were in clean out mode. Okay. So like, again, it took months to clean this building out to even get ready to renovate. I was standing in the basement and I was so overwhelmed. I looked around and I was sweating. It was hot. It was summer. And I just thought, I'm actually never going to get this done. I was like, I looked around, I was thinking, I don't even know where to start. There's just so much stuff everywhere. And there was a moment where, like, picking up one tiny box and carrying it up the stairs to carry it then out to the dumpster, it all just felt so tedious. And I was standing there and the floor was really dirty in the basement. And I looked over at a broom and I thought, well, I suppose I could sweep. And even to myself, I thought, what a stupid thing to do. But I thought, you know what? forget that. It's not stupid. I know how to sweep and it needs to be done. And so sometimes if you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you can't figure out what to do, pick one simple thing that you can do and just do it. And then from there, it's a little bit of momentum, right? So number one is just focusing on what you can do. Number two is what you can control. I told you already that we bought this building at the end of 2020. Contractors, the supply chain problems, like all of it was so far out of my control. And so I really tried every day to just focus on what can I do today? What can I control? And really just did everything I could to focus on those things versus all the things that were not in any measure within my control. The third is something that you can measure. So in the beginning of this thing, like before the building was purchased, I really just focused every single day on one activity. And that was the number of conversations that I could have with new people sharing my vision of this thing. The more people I told, the clearer that I got, the more articulated the idea become. And plus then people would share things with me to help refine the vision. And that was kind of amazing. Also the first, and I'll just tell you this in case you end up wanting to know, the reason I didn't quit, because you absolutely could be like, well, why didn't you quit? I hadn't purchased the building, the beginning where when COVID happened, I had my fundraising plans in place, but I had already secured a couple of significant partners. And I actually had a $40,000 check in our bank account on January 1, 2020. And it was from this amazing guy. His name's Matt Marshall. He worked for our electric co-op. And the reason I'm even telling you this is because I hadn't met Matt before. I called Matt about 2 weeks after I filed for our IRS exemption for the nonprofit. And I told him about my idea. He said, "Where have you been all my life, Rebecca Undem?" That's what he said to me on the phone. And he's an economic developer. He said, "I've been waiting for a project just like this." Like, how would I know that that was going to happen? Right? He came to Oaks. The whole thing worked out. He gave me this $40,000 check. And when COVID happened, I called him and I said, "Matt, I'm not sure I can do this." And he said, "Rebecca, I know it's scary. I know it's hard." He said, "Just whatever you do, please don't quit." He said, "You have 40,000 reasons to keep going." And so the reason what you can do every day or what you can measure is important is because finding a Matt then led me to the next person that loved it. That's what's so cool about this planting the flag. I planted my flag and I found Matt Marshall, and then Matt Marshall connected me to Bernie, then Bernie connected me to John, and it became like a love train that I couldn't have made happen without the hope, the belief and the hope that I was doing something that mattered. Okay. What you can do each day, just pick something that you can help move your thing forward. Initially, like I said, all I was doing was tracking how many conversations I had. My goal was to fill out this 8x8. It was 64 boxes. I had like a little chart that I measured every day. And I only needed about 30 of them to get the funding that I needed to proceed. So even just having the goal, like having something that you can track and measure really helps. And then the last thing, of course, is if you can outsource some things, like you're not going to be able to do it all. You need humans, you need people. I had my parents in the pictures of the renovations. My parents were in that building with me every single day. And then my grandparents, of course, were here in spirit. Okay. When it comes to actions, the last thing of the love note for this is just don't mistake being new with being terrible. I can't tell you the number of times I hear people go, "Oh, I suck at this." And you know what I say to them? Yeah, you should, because you've never done it before. Why would you be good at this? Like it's a beginner's mentality, like truly embracing that. There is so much I didn't know about what I was getting into with this project. And I chose to lean on the people, the professionals that were around me. I buoyed my heart, my spirit with the people kind of that we talked about. And I focused on inspired action. I wasn't good at a lot of it. And there's still a lot of stuff I'm not good at. But every time you try something new, you're going to be kind of bad at it. And that's okay. You're new. You're not terrible. So this focus of, being surrounded by the right people, getting the mindset of hope that allows us to take the right action, you will create an impact that is unique to you. And that's the most special part about living in a small town, is we can make an impact and we can do it our way. Okay, so the last love note is that you will always find what you're looking for. So this is psychologically, this is called confirmation bias. And it simply means this, that every single day you get to choose what you're looking for. And it's based on what you believe. So when I step outside of my house in Oaks, North Dakota, population 1,800, and if I walk around believing that Oaks is a dying town, that nobody interesting would ever want to live here, that as soon as my kids graduate, I'm just going to cut and run, whatever the belief is. As I go throughout my day, it is absolutely a guarantee that I will experience things that validate that belief, because it's what we're looking for. So you're always going to find what it is you're looking for. And so what if instead you walked out of your house saying, this community is great. All I see is possibilities. This is where I want to live and I love it here. And just all the things, like the coolest people live here. I promise you, you're going to find evidence to support those beliefs. And the point is that you get to choose. You get to choose what beliefs you're validating every single day. And I think what's also kind of special about this very thing is that that's just a mindset. It's just a choice that you get to make. The crazy thing about it is, I was talking to a therapist once about this. People will say, oh yeah, well they'll call this like fluff. Well, this therapist described this scenario. She was explaining this to a client or a patient, and she asked the patient to look around the room and just focus on everything in the room that was red. So the patient does it, and she gets done. They count out a few things that they saw that were red. And she said, okay, this time I want you to just look for the things that are blue. So of course they do it. They find a few things. And then she asked the question, did you see the red things when you were looking for the blue things? And the patient says, well, no, because I was looking for the blue. And she asked, were the red things still there? And the patient said, oh, and that's confirmation bias. So again, if you ever start to feel like all you're seeing is garbage and despair and no hope for your community, I encourage you to remember this specific love note, because the positive things are there. You just might not be seeing them. Okay, and with that, I'm going to end my slideshow and we can open up for questions. And I didn't see the chat, like I didn't see anything. So
yeah, if anybody, thanks, Deb. That was kind of fun to have Deb Brown here. Thanks for sitting in, Deb. I was so engrossed in listening to you, Rebecca. I didn't ask for questions. So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute or you can put them in the chat. I love the wet blanket. That's so funny.
We always need funny little acronyms so that we don't go crazy.
Yeah, so true. So funny. Yes. And we have some communities. Oh my gosh. So I'm just going to pick on Win It because they
Tara,
have
I'll
done.
tell you real quick, Carrie popped one in the chat.
Okay.
Do you want me just to answer that one?
Yeah, go for it.
So Carrie, I love the we. The we was truly me. I talk about it as a we because legitimately it wasn't just me. It was 100% my idea. I mean, when it comes to like, I was the one that wanted it. I was the one that spearheaded it. But as soon as Matt Marshall was like, I'm on board, as soon as I had a contractor on board, that me very quickly became a we. And that was just important to me, because the truth is, another thing that I battle, and I don't know if any of you ever feel this way, but I still very much get you're never a prophet in your own backyard kind of thing. And so, which I just hate that that's a thing, but it is. And I've kind of just learned to roll with it. But I find that as long as I keep it global, and I always say we, even if it's something that I am actually doing through Growing Small Towns, it lands better. It's better received. So I hope that makes sense. the we was every person that was involved, basically. And the board.
I'm just gonna, I have to call on Winnet. So as you were talking about accomplishing some of these things and the sense of like you wanted it, Winnet has done a lot of these communities in Reimaging Rural this year. I've done some amazing things, but Winnet especially came to mind as you were talking about that. And I'm just wondering if anybody feels brave from Winnet to talk about if there's anything that really resonated with you with what Rebecca was talking about, because some of the things that you've done, they have this, they took this super old building and moved it down the street in Winnet, which they have around 400 or 500 people in their entire county. So very small population.
Wow.
And they did so much of it with, they've done just some amazing things.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm just curious if anything resonated with you all there in Winnet. Is anybody brave enough to talk? I see Laura there.
Which Laura? So I think the step out so your people can find you. I mean, I feel like that's it. That Laura Keel had an idea and we stepped out and there were a lot of people in that project.
Yeah.
Over 75 different people have helped with that project.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, that shows when you start, there are people out there and if you plant your flag, then people show up.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm telling you, I can tell you now that my life is so much richer now with the connections and some of the people that came alongside me in this thing, Matt Marshall being one of them. I mean, these are like ride or die people to me now. And I didn't know them before this project. And that's just so cool to me, you know? I've often said that, like, had I not done this project, I'm not sure how I would be, like how well I would be, because I was really feeling this pull to do something of significance right here in Oaks. And I mean, my parent, like I could tell you so many stories. Oh my goodness. When we first moved back, I worked at a pumpkin patch with my mom. Okay. Like that was the business that I like moved back for, which sounds insane. It's true. And then, you know, while I was raising my kids, the farmstead came up for sale. And I really thought like, maybe I should just I should do the pumpkin patch and I should run it. Like I went out there, I prayed on it. I thought about it. And I just was like, you know what? That was my mom's life and it wasn't mine. And it wasn't the right plan for me, but this wasn't in my head yet, right? All I'm saying is planting your flag, this idea of like really saying, this is who I am, and you're all invited. Like, if you want to rise, come on with me. And I always joke, I'm like, I only needed 8,000 square feet to, you know, fully express myself in Oaks, whatever, it's fine. I'm kidding. But I have this space now where people know when they come in here, they know how they're going to be treated by me because it's what we do. And I want it to feel different than maybe what they experience sometimes on just the main streets of my small town. So
yes,
yeah, I think
thanks,
there's
Rebecca.
something really cool about that.
That's great. Thank you, Winnet, for letting me call you out on some of the awesome stuff that you've done. That's really great.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Ikalaka says, could you elaborate on how the Ben Franklin building space is now being utilized?
Yeah. So those 3 areas of programming that I talked about, those are the things that we drive into our space from a programmatic perspective. So we have a big kind of mixed use training space. We've got a couple of them. And then we've got huddle rooms built out and a conference room built out. So it's a really flexible, multi-purpose venue. I do not host weddings here, to everybody's dismay, but I didn't build this thing for weddings. I built this thing to be the home for this nonprofit that works to bring things, people, resources, ideas to this town that help people get better, period. And so we also rent the space. So like today, one of our local banks had a presentation for some of their customers. So our space gets a lot of traffic on a daily basis. I would say we have somebody in here at least a couple of times a week, renting parts of the building for their training spaces.
That's great.
Yeah. And then co-working is available here as well.
Pop your questions in, folks. I have a question for you, Rebecca, that I hear pretty frequently. So when I'm around the state and people are talking about economic development or community development, a lot of times the questions that we get are, well, what kind of businesses do small towns need? What should we have here? What business would work here? Or what, thing, and I'm just wondering, I've heard you talk about that before, but I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on that question.
Oh, okay. Well, so I believe that truly for the most part, now this is a big generalized statement, so don't like hold my toes to the fire on this one, but for the most part, there is quite a range of businesses that could work in quite a range of community sized places, because we live at a time when you are not limited to just the foot traffic that comes through your store. And the more people recognize that and realize that, the more I think people can actually achieve a meaningful business dream in a town of any size. So, I mean, I think when it comes to what will work here, all I'll say is, like, on paper, this building shouldn't work here.
Yep.
And it does.
Yep.
And I think it's because I'm running it and I care about it and I'm dogged, and I'm like, if you tell me no, I'm going to figure it out and then invite you to the celebration of the thing. Like, I really just think if a person has the aptitude and the determination, and they tap into the resources that exist for us, there's just, again, we're not as behind big cities as we feel like we are from a resource perspective. There's just so much that we can tap into.
Yep.
So I think it really depends. If you want it and you're willing to work hard to make it work, then I will cheerlead you from here. And I know that you can do it. So I know that's not, like, I'll just tell you, we redid our city website, and I was a big part of that with our chamber director. So our Chamber of Commerce is in our building too, by the way, which is really great. We collaborate on everything. When we revamped our website, we literally put up a list of businesses needed in Oaks. Okay. And I was giving a talk about it and kind of shared that link, and someone in the audience goes, who vetted that list? And I just laughed. I was like, nobody. But Kasha and I said, like, what businesses do we need? We made sure that they didn't overlap with anything that already exists here. And I'm not saying it's because we put it out there, but in 2 years since putting that list out there, 4 of those businesses now are here. So I also think that there's something, call it energetic, call it karmic. I mean, we don't have to get all woo about it, but seriously, if you make it clear what you want, you're at least asking for it. I think it's good to claim what it is that you want.
Well, and also telling people, like, hey, you're not the only one that wants a cute coffee shop or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. We have a couple of questions. Can you describe more in detail of what you do with your co-working facility? Is it a retreat space, tourism destination, etc.?
So the co-working aspect of it, Shelby, is legitimately just like it sounds. I mean, you pay a membership and then you have anytime access to our space. So you get all the amenities of an office you don't have to pay for or worry about the overhead. So it was designed with some of that in mind, if that makes sense. But in terms of a retreat space, yeah, our building is awesome for that. And we've hosted like company retreats here. Tourism destination, I wouldn't say so. I don't feel it. This is a tourist destination, like the building itself, for people that geek out about projects like this. Like, everybody wants to come and see it, right? And I love that. That's great. Yeah. But it's not the average person. I don't think would be like, oh, great. But anybody that like is really into their community, they all want to come and check it out. So that's been kind of fun too.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another. We have one last question. We're 1 minute over, but
yes, sorry.
Other than your center in Oaks, what draws people to your town? What do people come for outside of your center? What resources do you depend on?
Okay, I love this question, because here's the truth. my community does not have landmarks. Like we don't have, outside of hunting and fishing, which is a whole industry that's separate from tourism in my brain. Okay. Like it's clear people come here to hunt and fish, and that drives tourism, but it's not tourism the way we think about it. Right. So, and this is for every single town, even smaller than mine. What I get excited about is the idea of visitorship. It's different than tourism, but it has the same impact. And what draws people to our town is people like me inviting the people I love to come and check out my town. I think that's what draws people here. The great people that live here, have businesses here. We really have a lot of pride about this community. And so then people want to come and see me, and I invite them here. Yeah. Any chance I get, I invite people here. And a lot of other people are like that too. And that's what really draws people here. And I think that's true for all of us. If people love you, people will come and visit your town.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yes.
You invite them and make it fun.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Rebecca, amazing to have you. Thank you so much for putting this great presentation together. We're excited to share your thoughts. We will hopefully share your slides with folks in an email and on our website. And can't say thank you enough. Really appreciate your
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So real quick, do you want me to hang out?
Oh, if you...
Jennifer's like shaking her head. You just tell me. I can totally hang if you want me to.
So folks are going to go into their private conversations now in their communities, and they will pop back up at a little bit before the hour. They may have some questions for you, but if you want to hang out, you're welcome to, and we'll probably turn the camera on at probably 10 minutes too. So perfect. If you want to, great. If you're not there, maybe we'll send you some questions.
I am perfectly happy to hang, so I will.
Okay, cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
all right.
You bet.
All right. Before we release you to have your local conversations, I am excited. Oh yeah, of course I said yes. I am really excited we have a really great part of this Reimaging Rural was the idea came from Montana Community Foundation, and I'm inviting Taylor Crowell up here, and she is online. Taylor Crowell is the program officer for the local community foundations at Montana Community Foundation, and she's part of our planning team. She's with us every step along the way as we work with Reimaging Rural, get it going and get it going started. So Taylor used to work at Montana Department of Commerce, and before that, she was a AmeriCorps Vista volunteer. They are everywhere across our state. So I am going to turn it over to Taylor. She's going to talk about two really great opportunities. One of them is the grant. So hopefully you guys can listen into that. Taylor, are you?
I'm here. Yeah.
There?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, great.
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks, Tara.
Yeah.
As Tara mentioned, I get to serve on the planning committee for Reimaging Rural. And when MSU Extension kind of conceptualized Reimaging Rural, one of the things that the Montana Community Foundation thought that we could bring to the table is this concept of seed grants. So small grants to help support projects or programs or initiatives that have come out of your community's participation in Reimaging Rural. And we're really excited to have that grant opportunity again this year. And the grants that we've helped support have ranged from establishing an arts nonprofit up on the High Line to starting a leadership program in Stillwater County to seeding some of the funds from the Welcome Plaza and Roundup that you heard about during Teresa's presentation on night one. Tons of different ideas. There's really no right or wrong project. And as Tara mentioned, I think she sent out a list of previous grants that we've given out, but it's certainly not contained to that. If you have an idea for a project that's bubbled up during the session, I'm sure it's a great one. So just to give you a little bit more background, the grant opportunity is only open for communities that participate in all three sessions of Reimaging Rural. So it's really only open to folks that are on the call tonight, which is pretty special. And the grants will range from $500 to $2,000. So that's kind of the range of projects that you guys should be thinking about. It's not meant to be an intimidating grant to write. We hope that it'll take you less than an hour to complete. And essentially, if you have a project and you put in for a grant, you'll probably receive funding unless there's something kind of horribly awry. Having said that, if it becomes a little bit more difficult to make certain funding decisions and everybody's asking for the maximum amount, we are going to look at the amount of like community collaboration that you can articulate as part of the process. So everybody's kind of off with a great start. I know there's so many people involved in all of the Reimaging Rural sessions and the ideas that you guys are talking about. So that's kind of the broad scope of the grant opportunity. The grants are opening today after the session. So you can apply anytime starting today through Friday, March 29th at 11:59 p.m. So essentially midnight. That'll give you about a month to write the application and ask any questions. As you're thinking about ideas, I know Tara's available to talk about projects. I'm available to talk about projects. Jennifer's available to talk about projects. Yeah, here to help you kind of come up with an idea that feels like the right fit for you. And in order to do that, we're also going to host 2 office hours, one on March 12th from 5:30 to 6:30, so in the evening, and then one later that week on March 14th from 12 to 1. And those are really just an opportunity to talk about ideas that you might have for the grant, or if you have any like technical questions, you can ask those during those sessions as well. So again, applications are due March 29th at 11:59 p.m. And I'll put in the chat and also post on the Reimagining Rural Facebook page where you can access the grant, but it's essentially just on our website. We have a page built out for Reimagining Rural. So that was the first really exciting thing that I wanted to plug. And I'll also put my contact information if you guys have any questions about the grant opportunity. And then the second really exciting thing that I wanted to plug is that the Montana Community Foundation, along with MSU Extension, and the West Yellowstone Foundation are starting Community Heart and Soul in Montana. And Community Heart and Soul is a resident-driven process that engages the entire population of a town in identifying what they love most about their community, what future they want for it, and how to achieve it. So if Reimagining Rural feels like it was a great starting point and you're interested in kind of more community and resident-driven visioning for your town, and interested in kind of growing your growing your town's pride, cultivating new leaders, articulating a collective vision for the future, we want to invite you to an information session about Community Heart and Soul on April 2nd from 12 until 1, so over the lunch hour. And I'll also put that information in the chat for folks to sign up. But it's really just an opportunity to learn more about the Community Heart and Soul model and for us to talk a little bit more about how we're thinking about piloting it in Montana. So that's essentially kind of the overview about the grant program and then also Community Heart and Soul. So I'll turn it back over to Tara and Jennifer unless there's anything I missed.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, 2 great. Well, the grants are going to be awesome. They have been really great. And there we go. There's the grant application, and you've already seen the questions. So the questions are the same. Grant applications are due at the end of March. And Heart and Soul is a new, well, it's been done around the country. It's an opportunity to it's more of a process if you want to engage more folks and have a process as you go through that. Look into that and we can answer more questions about that too. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all in the communities across the state to have your local conversations. And as you're doing that, we've got these questions up here, up on the, we just encourage you to please do your response cards and collect those all and send them in to us. We can't wait to see what you all have said and how this worked for you, what you took away from the speakers this round of Reimaging Rural. So encourage you to do those response cards and then have a conversation about that, but then also have a conversation about what you might use your grant funds for. So these questions are something that might be helpful to think about the projects that might be good for your grant. Build on something positive. Think about a quick, easy win, because it is about the thing that you did with the grant, but it's also about building that working relationship with other folks in your community. And once you get that quick, easy win and you have those relationships built, we have seen other communities go on to do more and more and more bigger, progressively bigger things. It is about the small project that you might do, but it's also about building that team. So keep it simple, gather your people. Don't forget to invite folks, make it personal, especially newcomers. Make it fun, like they did in Roundup, and celebrate your successes. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to you all. And we're here if you have questions, but we're going to, you can turn off your cameras and turn to your conversation. We're going to turn the camera back on at about 7:55. And if you have, would love to see a summary of what you're talking about just in the chat at the end of that. But we know also that sometimes you get engaged in your conversation. So anyways, thank you. We'll see you at the top of the hour.